the spirit board. Sometimes writing a poem feels like a Ouija at work, when the mind and the moment are entrancingly still, and a heart-shaped hand, my hand, floats a pen over the page to let my spirit speak. In sudden words, ascending lines, say whatever it wants to say, needs to say, in surprising and mysterious ways, ways I can't predict, don't control, just let it move. Good evening, everyone, friends and newcomers, listeners everywhere. Welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, the 10th in this weekly series, coming to you live from Rhode Island, from Weekapaug, Rhode Island, by the sea, the deep and deeply curious sea. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin Goedecke. Tonight, inviting you into places of mystery, mysteriousness, deeper wonderings, inside you and around you, ones that are, if unseeable, often when we're fully present, palpable, feelable, and greatly embraceable. I thought tonight we might start with a few quotes from various people of meaning to me, and perhaps to you. I've spoken of John O'Donohue before, Irish philosopher poet, wrote a wonderful book you might be interested in, Beauty, the Invisible Embrace. And this was a quote about the voice of the poet. The poet becomes the passing womb for something that wants to be born, wants to become visible and live independently in the world. A true poem has a fully formed, autonomous individuality. Keats says poetry should be great and unobtrusive, a thing which enters into one's soul and does not startle or amaze with itself, but with its subject. Thank you, John O'Donohue. And my, what I call him, artistic grandfather of a kind, Robert Henry, his book, The Art Spirit. He was a portrait painter of the Ashcan school back in the 10s, 20s of 1900s. And this was from a collection of his lectures, a quote, "When the motives of artists are profound, when they are at their work as a result of deep consideration, when they believe in the importance of what they are doing, their work creates a stir in the world." I like to think it creates a mystery, too. Mary Oliver, Instructions for Living a Life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Maybe we could say, and be mystified and tell about it. So much mystery around us, and I don't think all of it needs to be solved, but it's wonderful to delve into it. And just one more quote before we go elsewhere. Diane Ackerman, "The great affair, the love affair with life, is to live as variously as possible, to groom one's curiosity like a high-spirited thoroughbred, climb aboard and gallop over the thick, sun-struck hills every day. Where there is no risk, the emotional terrain is flat and unyielding, and despite all its dimensions, valleys, pinnacles, and detours, life will seem to have none of its magnificent geography, only a length. It began in mystery, and it will end in mystery, but what a savage and beautiful country lies in between." So into the mysterious we go, and I've been reading a wonderful little book that Sam Shepard wrote at the end of his life. He was quite something as a writer, as an actor, and more, playwright. spy of the first person. And just relatively, I think, right before he died, he wrote these reflections about this first other person he was observing, of course, and ultimately we know that it's him. In this one short chapter, it's just a paragraph, he said, where exactly do we come from? That's one question. Was it a desert? Was it a forest? Was it a mountain? Was it the prairie? Where do we actually come from? The Colorado River? If you were traveling in a foreign country and you lost your dogs and you lost your car and you lost your note from home that your mother pinned on your collar and you lost your clothes and you were standing there naked and somebody came up to you and said, where do you belong? How would you answer? Would you ask the one ancestor who happened to be Portuguese? Or would you ask the Spanish Armada? Somebody has forgotten. So as I mused on mysterious things and mysteriousness and the mysterious, I thought the mysteriousness of our life journeys. And this is a poem written a few years ago called Our Odysseys. No fingerprints of any two Odysseuses alike. Each of us with our own epic to live and tell, our own Ithacas to seek, to journey to, our own wanderings and concealments, friendships and testings, omens, demons, passions, questions, to contend with along the wild, unknown way. Touched at times by the graces, sometimes caprices, of greater and lesser gods, of the singular lands and seas, we wind up traveling, traversing all the joyful and painful passages, encounters, vantages, offering each of us one-of-a-kind chances and choices, egoic to heroic, to see, to take, to make at every turn. To me, always, every equinox, every solstice, those ancient reflections of our cultures and pre-cultures strike me as some of the most mysterious. And I've written and read some other equinox and solstice pieces over the last 9, 10 to date as well, broadcast. And this one was for an autumnal equinox, and back in 2012, Eternal Rhythms, an ode to the autumnal equinox. The sun moves south in a bright cross over the equator, over great rainforests, hunting tigers, hidden tribes, Horus entwines with Seth, Gwyn with Gwythyr, the Holly King with the Oak King. Light balances with darkness, night with day. Still warm land yields its last best fruits for harvest, while wicker men made of barley stems are set afire, while sacred corn, black, white, yellow, red, is ground and watered to life, while 7 looming faces made of stone look solemnly out to sea, gaze Easter islandly into sunset. A feathered serpent triangled with light, Father, Mother, Son, descends an unshaded pyramid. Mystics, too, descend within themselves to discover. Spirit enters waiting bodies, and at midnight, Alcyone arrives and aligns incandescently from the Pleiades, and the earth, the whole earth, turns again to its eternal rhythms and rhymes. Then there's the mystery of the intimations we get inside of ourselves, sometimes so subtle, yet they're there, and the quieter we can get, the more we can tune into them, feel them, maybe follow them. And there was a time back in just the day before Christmas, a few years ago, this happened. It's called Still Life. December, country winter morning, dawn light bluely bathing the room, a sweater-draped chair, the feathers of a heron poised under glass by a half-opened window, a man lying lengthwise in a wide-angled bed, naked under blankets, warm beneath the chill, awake but eyes still closed, listening to a winter rain falling, feeling his breath rising and falling, recalling a voice in a dream, a curious word, spoken by a Native American man, maybe Powhatan, wondering about this, wondering what the day will bring, what else it may say to him. Still life. And then, if there are intimations, then there are ruminations, right? Those things we muse on, mysterious things sometimes, curious things. In the wee hours of the heart, in the quiet, wondering dark, where unbidden feelings arise, unhidden feelings float, are freely felt, where you ponder the life choices you made, the possibilities you unmade, the chances you might have taken, the dances you left undanced, the dance partner who once held out an open hand, an open heart, a whole future to you, and the hand and heart you held out to them in the wee hours. In these times, of course, which are in their way mysterious, they're certainly unknown. The future is so unknown anyway, but more palpably unknown. I think sometimes of dark nights of the soul, transformational dark nights, and the mystery of that, and this piece. Have you had your dark nights of the soul? Cave dark, bat dark nights, times and places of raw and nameless, sometimes name-plated fear, sheer cliff-faced anxiety, fear of falling into an abyss, into a maw, swallowed whole into the belly of a fierce unknown beast, and despite each starless passage, each imagined stroke of fate, miscarriage of your fortunes, somehow, however barely, unforeseeably making it through to the light and the heart of day, limbs intact, onto solid ground, to the forgotten safety of faith in self, and the never-vanished bounty shining away inside and all around you. As a poet, in particular, the poet I am, the kind of poet I am, a plein air poet, especially of the landscape of nature. I'm so moved by the beauty, mystery, lyricism of the landscape, of the elements, of the planets and the sun and the moon. And this was written back in the Yucatan coast in 1998 in Mexico. Esto sol, this sun. This sun is a curious thing. It frosts the ocean's forehead and bleaches plaster walls, yet bakes rooftops and browns men's bodies. This sun has curious powers. While opening birds' mouths and flowers' eyes, it purses the dark and lowers the shade. The more it reveals of the earth, the more it conceals of the moon. This sun, this curious sun. And the partner, the moon. This was actually written for a lovely friend of mine up in Maine, Deborah Lauren Lang, January 1st of 2018. Under the first full moon of the year, it was written on the energy of that moon. Lunar Litscape. At precisely 9:25, when the moon, the first and most abundant one of the new year, was perfectly full, thousands of readers, many with mittens, opened their novels and poetry collections and their unfinished mysteries, promising short stories, and began to read by the cleagishly bright lunar light. Some silently, nocturnally, in the outdoor reading rooms they shared with the stars and the owls. Some sottovocely, others to listening friends, even declaimingly up to the moon itself, which was, that night, all wide-eyed, open-eared. Lunar Litscape. I felt we could not speak about the moon without bringing Rilke in, Rainer Maria Rilke, wonderful poet, a touchstone for me and maybe some of you, who said, "Forget, forget, and let us live now only this, how the stars pierce through cleared nocturnal sky, how the moon's whole disk surmounts the gardens. We've sensed so long already how the darkness breeds many mirrors, how a gleam takes shape, a white shadow in the radiance of night. But now let us cross over and invest this world where everything is lunar." Thank you, Rilke. So, the mysteriousness of dreaming, one of the most mysterious things. A few years back in La Habra, California, I was visiting a wonderful friend, a soul brother, still a soul brother, of forever, and this poem arrived inside me called The Electric Bed. You turn it on by unplugging yourself, by going dark into sleep, by connecting to the grid of your dreaming world, where everything is electric, is wildly charged, flows with fast and slow current, with high and low voltage, positives and negatives, generates heat and light of curious and compelling kinds, conducts your subconscious through flashing scenes, encounters, mysteries, marvels, activates deep and secret circuits of intuition, precognition, sends signals, powerful signals, through the wires to your waking life. If we keep going into the outer reaches, we go off into outer space. And isn't that mysterious? And both literally and imaginatively. And so I was somehow musing on what the sense, S-C-E-N-T-S, of outer space might be. If we could smell them, of course we couldn't technically, but if we could. So this is the odor of outer space, where no open noses, only the nose cones of man's rockets at the most, have ever gone before. So one must wonder about the odor, the other-worldly aromas of outer space. Were we to intrepidly, olfactorily enter, sniff, inhale them, the possible perfume of each planet, like Neptune, maybe saltier than sweeter, the savory vapor of Jupiter, the wild fragrance of Uranus, musky incense of Venus, dark pungency of Pluto, or the tangy bouquet of Mercury, the spiced rings wreathing Saturn, the heady attar of the moon's craters, eau de cologne of the red rivers veining mighty, manly Mars, maybe the pale sachet of the Seven Sisters, those anciently, prettily powdered Pleiades, the keen scent of the dog star, the likely redolence, lingering and soft, of all that floating stardust, or a whiff of distant nebulas, crab, oyster, and robin's egg, Yes, one must, I at least, now and then, ponder all the stellar emanations, effluviums, and pheromones waiting and wafting above and beyond the reach of our eager, earthbound beaks. And as we come toward the end of our time tonight, this week, I put together a one-man show which I've taken around over the last year or so, starting in New York and Brooklyn and lots of other states and places, and more to come. And this is from that exhibition, Behind the Curtain, it's called. There's some information up on my website about that, and more if you're interested. And so one of the characters, these are characters that appear behind the curtain. They're poem stories, they're images of them, and then their stories. And this character and their stories, the outer spacer, outer-spacer, is on an Odyssey, Homerian for the 21st century, a mission to explore the farthest reaches of his inner galaxy, for which he needs an outer space suit, the skin he arrived in, lives in. Wide openness, leaps of courage, and astronautical curiosity on this vast and varied journey where he may discover the secrets and platelets of his known and unknown universe, ones from wormholes and stars to cosmic rays and solar winds that exist and persist within him, differently inside each of his fellow earthlings, whether they venture outside in or not. And a question poem, I suppose, or certainly a question in a poem form, to close for tonight. What if it's a mystery play? What if it's a mystery play? This life. And we must, like Holmes and Hercule, carefully, cleverly follow its clues, however false at first, or faint, or far-fetched. Deduce the meaning hiding inside it all. Uncover the heart of our story, at least enough of the mystery to reveal the particular part where each here, each meant, cast into the world to play. Thank you very much for listening, and for your welcome donations by PayPal and Venmo that help support these programs and poetic arts. But especially thank you for your enthusiasm. Replays of all these broadcasts are online to share or hear another time. I hope you'll lean in again. Until then, good days ahead and good spirits.